That was not when they were down 2-0. It was when, not 2-0, down 2. It was once they were down 1 goal.
So they were, wow. So after they went down 1 goal, it was 18-1 still on 365.
Yeah.
She's cooked. She's done.
Oh, yeah.
she got the email this morning.
You're listening to Behind the Lines, a podcast presented by In Play Live and powered by Pinnacle, the #1 sportsbook where winners play and never get limited. Go to pinnacle.com/InPlayLive to sign up and get in the game.
Welcome in. It's Behind the Lines, powered by Pinnacle, purifying the sports betting industry. I'm Shane. Pace is here. And on today's show, betting on the Pope, round 2 NBA and NHL, and even more hockey with the World Championship. So much on the agenda, Pace. But first, a big shout out to my man KB for filling in for me last week. He did a fantastic job. I knew he would. You know, Pace, I saw a lot of the comments about KB in our IPL Discord chat and some of the comments under the in the YouTube there, and you know, saying, "Oh, KB did such a great job. You know, he's a natural. He's amazing." You know, and I'm like, "Uh-oh, I might be out of a job here," as I kind of joked with you and him as well. But you know, as far as KB being a natural, I knew KB would be great because the guy's got years of radio training. All right. He didn't just show up and, you know, was able to just do this. I've chatted with the guy quite a bit. We both have broadcasting backgrounds, him and I. So I knew he was going to be a perfect fit.
He hid that from us, hey?
Oh, there you go. All right.
Shane, what's your ethnicity?
Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up too, because he comes on here. He's like finally adding a little bit of color to the show. And I'm like, KB, dude, what do you mean? And him and I, I'm pretty sure have talked about this. So, you know, he's a full brown guy. So maybe he did add, you know, a little more color to the show. But I'm a half brown guy. My dad's from Bangladesh and my mom's white, Irish, Scottish. So, you know, I've got a little bit of color, not quite as much as him. So I guess he, you know, that statement held true. But, you know, I feel like I got slighted there just a little.
You give him just a little bit of thread to pull on, and he'll yank it as far as he can, right?
Well, that's KB for you, yeah.
No, he did a great job. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, he did a great job, and I think we got to bring him back on, and maybe him and I host together or something like that. Have a show where we're both on at the same time.
Well, he messaged me this morning asking where his link was to run the show, and I said Shane's back in the saddle. And Shane, I see that you're wearing looks almost like a nice collared jacket there. So it seems like the attire is kind of met in the middle a little bit after the being called out for the hoodie. And I love that I'm not called out in any of this. It's like, no, the host needs to be the one.
Yeah.
You know?
This is a host battle here. Yeah. You know, I love that he came on with the suit and tie. I mean, you know, he looked great. I guess, you know, like the tie was a little bit crooked, and I did maybe get the feeling that he wasn't wearing any pants, but you know, hey, whatever. That's, you know,
If Kevin O'Leary can do it, if Kevin O'Leary can do it, so can KB, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, definitely got to have a KB back on the show, dude. Thanks for hosting if you're out there listening, which I'm sure you are, and I'm sure you'll drop a comment too, rebutting perhaps some of the things I said here. But yeah, we'd love to have him back on the show together, and had a chance to meet him in Vancouver both times that I was there. And hopefully I'll get a chance to connect with him again when I'm there coming up at the end of June in a couple of months for the big annual retreat.
So you're in.
I'm in. Yeah, I had a few things to work out, but I'm saying it here on the show. I am in. I don't know if I'll be able to be there for all 3 days, though.
Whoa. Shane.
I think I might have to leave early, and especially after the way the third day went the last time I was there, and I almost missed my flight. I think it's probably a good idea that I bail a day early.
Well, we can talk about that offline. You'll be there, but that's good. Good to know that you're there, Shane. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, definitely should be able to make an appearance. So that'll be great. All right, Pace. We've got a lot on the agenda to get through, and there's a big one this week, and it's very fitting with kind of where we are, at least in Canada, and even the U.S. having gone through a presidential election not that long ago, and we just are, of course, coming off of a federal election in which, by the way, I did end up betting Liberal minority at plus 250, so 3.5 to 1, and hit on that bet. So quite,
did you
quite
bet it
proud
live?
of myself. That was my first election bet.
Did you bet it live or did you bet it before things had kind of started? Like when did you?
I bet it like, I guess we would call it like right before polls close. So
Okay.
pre-game, so to speak, but right at close kind of thing. So I had the benefit of kind of watching the market sort of move. I sort of started paying attention to it about a week and a half before, and kind of watched where it was moving. And as far as I could tell, all signs, both polls and books, were pointing to a Liberal win. Liberal majority was heavily favored. But having looked at everything and the odds, the Liberal minority just made a lot of sense for a bet.
Yeah. So like I haven't bet many elections, but I took my first ever loss. I bet conservative majority. And the reason why I did it was because of the odds. So you could say that it was a bad bet, but I got almost 15-1 on conservative majority. And, you could obviously be like, oh, well, that was stupid. Or like obviously, Polyev lost his steam or whatever. And I get that. But my rationale was so much based on polls being wrong. And if you're wrong again at 15-1, I was like, I just can't say no to taking a little crack at this. And then obviously very quickly I learned that, I was going to take the loss on that one. But the Liberal minority, that was a nice snipe there, Shane. Great job.
Yeah. Happy to win my first election bet. That was a lot of fun. But I'm bringing it all up because guess what? We've got another sort of political bet, if you will, that's on the menu for this week. It's a little bit different than the others, but it's getting a lot of interest. And I think this might be sort of it's the first time in our age of betting, but certainly not the first time that this has happened when it comes to this. So what am I talking about? Well, we're about to elect a new pope.
Well, we aren't.
Yes. We are not. You're right. You and I, Pace, are absolutely not going.
No public is electing a new pope.
No public is electing this, but conclave begins on the day this episode comes out. So Wednesday, May 7th. And yes, you can bet on it. So Pace, full disclosure, yes, I will not be able to bet, but I am a Catholic. Born, raised, raising my kids as Catholic. Just celebrated my youngest daughter's first communion this past weekend.
Okay.
So I come from a very long line of Catholics, big Catholic family. So putting my bias out there right now for everybody as we kind of go through this. But yeah, Wednesday, 135 cardinals are eligible to vote for the next pope. They'll enter the secret conclave and will vote repeatedly until a new pope is selected. So it's like day 1, they have 1 vote. Day 2 and day 3 are 2 votes. And then after that, it's just 1 vote a day. They need to get to 2/3 majority. It's quite a significant threshold, and that's why these things can go on for quite a long time.
Okay, so Shane, let me just ask you a couple questions since this is maybe a little bit more close to home for you, even though it's the same. We're in Canada, and this is happening at the Vatican. I'm assuming. I don't even know where
the Sistine Chapel, of all places,
Okay. And for people out there listening, the reason why we're bringing this up is specifically because of betting, obviously. Now, with that out of the way, this is probably one of the most unique and obscure processes in modern day elections. Like this is like something that you would almost watch in like some sort of like Game of Thrones or like biblical type film or fantasy land or something like that. So there's like 130 cardinals, and the cardinals are like highly elected, the top of the Catholic organization, I guess.
Yeah.
And they vote behind closed doors. And this is where you're going to have to correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, once the voting starts, they have no contact with the outside world. So we are in the dark.
That is absolutely correct. Yeah. As soon as they enter conclave on Wednesday, they are locked off from the outside world.
So no one knows what's going on. But in the process of the conclave, so they have to get to the 60% majority. But a part of that process is eliminating the other people. And will Polymarket and these betting markets know who's been eliminated?
They shouldn't. They absolutely should not, because nothing is supposed to get in or out. So
And if history repeats itself, you're going to have scenarios where the favorite may not even be running anymore because of what transpires and how intense the process can be on these individuals. Some people want it, some people don't want it. You can get voted in without any desire to be at the top if people put your name forward, very much like becoming, the king of the Night's Watch. If someone puts their token on your name and it starts gaining steam, then all of a sudden someone not even on this list in theory could rise as like, this is the person of the people, and you get voted in even though you didn't want it, right? So it's a really bizarre process, really crazy process. And that's what I'm like, from a betting standpoint, I'm thinking like, geez, this is all behind closed doors.
Yeah.
These people could be eliminated and they're the only people you could bet on.
Yeah, this is what makes it so much, it is an election, right? So it falls into that category, but this is what makes it so different. Like, there is no real polling, that's going to be conducted, right? You're not going to have any information. There's no, newsers, press conferences, policy announcements, like none of that stuff, right? And it's like, well, how do you, handicap this thing, right? And how is, a sharp book like Polymarket going to figure it out?
Right. Well, I think also too, like, we are comparing this to 2 elections that just came through. And the handle on this, I'm assuming it's still in the millions, but it's not even going to be even close to the volume of the U.S. election or the Canadian election, for that matter.
No.
And the other thing
versus
too,
millions is what we're talking about here. Yeah.
So Pope John Francis passed away. He was elected, if that's even the term. 15 years ago, 10 years ago?
2013. He was elected in 2013.
So 12 years ago. Before that was Pope John Paul III.
Pope John Paul II. No, before him was Benedict, and before that was Pope John Paul II.
Okay, so in the time that I doubt you could even have bet on this in 2 popes ago. But what I was going to say is Pope John Paul was the Pope for so fucking long that there wasn't even internet before.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
so
right.
This is completely uncharted territory from the standpoint of betting, where we're at in the world of betting, and the fact that these elections are now getting so much attention.
Yeah. We're totally so uncharted territory in the sense that betting online, betting on sports books the way we do now, totally different, even compared to when Pope Francis was elected in 2013. The online betting landscape wasn't what it is today. But I do have to note that people have been betting on the Pope and who's going to be elected for like 600 plus years. It's
okay.
Where, old bookies back in the day, outside the Vatican taking bets from people. It was really sort of a popular thing, a bit of a pastime even then.
Crazy. Well, I mean, super cool. And separately of any religious opinion or belief or anything like that, you can see right here on the graphic, if you're watching, different sports books are offering different odds than what Polymarket is offering. And I think that some people just look at the exchange model strictly as a way to get better prices, number one. And then number two, obviously that presents potential arb opportunities. And I think that in smaller markets, so, if you have the Super Bowl, the US election, people will say those markets are extremely efficient because of how much money is coming in. Well, when you get into things that are less in the spotlight, that's where things might be less efficient, meaning there could be greater line discrepancies, meaning there could be greater EV there, regardless of whether you actually have an angle yourself, but just simply playing the numbers.
Exactly. And that's why I like this graphic so much. And this article, for anybody out there, it's on USA Today, so you can go and have a good look at it. But I like this graphic so much because it really sort of highlights, one, perhaps what the sharp money is saying, or at least, what the sharp books are indicating. And then you get a sense of where some of these softer books are at and how they're kind of, putting the lines out there, specifically looking at Bet US here, where it's like, hey, the odds imply that Pietro Perlin here has a 40% chance at winning, along with the guy from the Philippines, Luis Antonio Tagle. Both of them at 40%, but then you got 20% on this guy and 20% on that guy and 13. It's like, wait a minute. Something's off here at Bet US, and you might not be getting the best odds depending on who you decide to bet on. when they're giving you 40%, so that would be like plus 150 on a guy who maybe really only has a 1 in 5 shot at getting in. So definitely, if this is something you're looking at, go and shop around, look at the lines, and use something sharp to kind of compare, because you may not be getting the best price, or you may be able to get a really good price depending on where you're looking and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and if you want to know more about this stuff from I say more of an entertainment standpoint, there's a film that's readily available to stream called Conclave. Lord Voldemort, whoever that actor is I think he's the main character, and it's
Ralph Fiennes.
That's him. So
yeah.
he's it's critically acclaimed.
It's fantastic.
I would say it is brilliantly done. It's just not like this high pace sort of film. You have to be into this stuff. Shane, right now, one of the most bizarre things is happening to me. I'm looking out my window and I'm on the 9th floor, and there's probably 15 stories up from me. There is a cat hanging out of a window, an open window, looking down at the street. And I've never seen this before. And I know cats are extremely agile, but I'm sitting here going, holy shit.
Is this cat going to make it?
Well, we're gonna have to set a line on cat safety here. I'm gonna say minus 1,000 that the cat is not gonna fall, or maybe that's that. But I just looked up and I can't not talk about it because it's right in my face right
now. All right, minus 1,000 that the cat makes it out alive. Let's not place any bets on the cat's life here.
Well, we can get the conclusion next week, but
there we
I
go.
think,
Perfect.
Yeah.
you can keep us up to date. But yeah, I'm glad you referenced that movie, because that is a fascinating film. If you do want to learn more while being entertained at the same time about how the whole process works, it is a real slow burn. And I don't want to give it away or spoiler alert, but there's a real twist ending that we could see something similar play out in real life, which makes this whole process that much more fun to watch.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to actual sports now. What we normally cover here on the show. Playoffs. Round 2 beginning. Pace, you've already put together some round 2 parlays, and I think
I've already lost one.
What's that?
I've already lost one.
You've already lost one. Yeah, you already lost one, but you did win some round 1 parlays.
Yeah, we basically swept round 1. We had one that was like 0.05 units that lost because I had the Bucks plus 2.5 in their series. They're up 7 in overtime with 30 seconds left and lost the game. But when I called it, a lot of people, it was like 5 minutes before tip. So a lot of people subbed that out for the Pistons or left it off entirely. And if that was the case, they swept everything. But yeah, no, I had a great round 1 of the playoffs. I actually just so on this show, sometimes I rewind the tape and I think to myself, Jesus, we recommended the Bucks to win the East. We recommended the Pacers to win the East. We recommended the Nuggets to win the West and the Clippers to win the West. But people have to, and those teams just so happen to be also playing each other. So it seems like, you're just offering everything. But from a recreational standpoint, I took just a little bit of that profit from my round 1 parlays, because I kind of view that as like, I guess, different than what we do, Shane. Like, this isn't, live betting, in the moment, hitting the bets in real time really quickly. I view this more as a recreational thing, even though round 1 over the last freaking 5 years has just been insane to me. Just insane, picking my spots and hitting pretty consistently there. I took a little bit, and I just had to throw a little bit on the Warriors to win the West. And the reason why I chose that instead of the finals, so they're plus 160 to win their series against the Wolves before game 1 has happened. Okay. As long as they play the Thunder, they will be, I would say, about plus 200 to win that series. They're going to get, if they make it through the Wolves. So if they make it through the Wolves, plus 200 may be actually a little bit aggressive, because then the hype comes, the Curry train, the public, he's done it before. They're going to get a lot of money on them, in my opinion. They probably already have that. So I think that there's a chance that it's less than plus 200. But if you take plus 160 and plus 200, it's less than the payout of them to win the West. But then if you take them to win the championship, it implies that they'd be a favorite in the championship if they got there. but I don't think they would be if they're playing against Boston. I just personally don't think so. So I was like, it's actually a worse bet to take them to win it all and a better bet to take them to win the West. And separately of picking when you take them. So let's say they lose game 1, the number's obviously going to jump up. But if you just look at it before the series starts, it's better to take them to win the West than to take them to win each individual series. So I actually looked at all that and I was like, hey, this isn't as recreational or as bad of a bet as it seems. So the last thing we want to do here is make it seem like we have every single team to win the conferences. But when I was in Hawaii and John was on and he said Nuggets to win the West, I did take that. So I have that, and then I sprinkled a little bit on the Warriors here. Now, if the Nuggets can upset the Thunder, I think Nuggets-Warriors will be a pick'em. It's possible, Shane. It's possible.
It's possible. It's possible. I think it's unlikely, but you're right. It's absolutely possible.
And this is the thing you got to think about, okay? So the Cavs, I hate that we film on Monday and shoot and release it on Wednesday because you want information to be current when people are listening.
Yeah.
But the Cavs
are a couple of the first games of round 2 behind us by the time this comes out on Wednesday.
Yeah. The Cavs are down 1-0 to the Pacers. Now, will the Cavs win that series? I have no fucking clue. But the Cavs are a team that haven't been there. The Thunder are a team that haven't been there.
Like no one on the Thunder has been there. That's really important to point out. Like nobody on that personnel has ever been there.
So if you rewind the tape to the Rockets and you go, oh, Fred VanVleet's been there. Sure. I'm not going to argue against that. But that team and that squad has not been there. Okay. Now, if you're like, oh, Pace, well, none of the Warriors have been there. Well, that's not true.
Well, no.
Right? The Warriors have been there and the Nuggets have been there. They've both checked all the boxes. They've both got it done. So the Celtics, the Nuggets, and the Warriors, those are the 3 teams that know what it takes. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have a chip on their shoulder. But typically speaking, teams like the Cavs struggle as they get down the stretch in the NBA playoffs because they haven't built up that resilience of where they go, hey, we are the 1 seed. You got to come through us. And they might think all that stuff, but they actually don't know what it takes. And those Celtics, they had that chip on their shoulder. They went there and lost and came back hungrier with more fight inside them and ready to get the job done. Who am I describing this year? Well, I might be describing the Thunder. They were the 1 seed. Or maybe they were the 2 seed. But either way, they were top seed. They got bounced out of the playoffs like it was nothing. Now they're here knowing and ready what it might take. So you have to build up that resilience over time. And the same could be described for the Wolves. They made it to the West Final. They lost. They might be ready to go to work here. So separately of all that, I think that these matchups are unbelievable. They're so exciting. It's going to be so intense. And sprinkle a little bit on the Warriors, and I have so much passion. I love Shea. I love Jokic. I love Anthony Edwards, and I love Steph Curry, and I love Jimmy Butler. So like the West is like, I feel like I can't lose. I'm going to be happy for whomever comes through over there.
I love that you started off with the Golden State Warriors because I was going to come here and pump their tires too. So you've kind of taken that away from me because
sorry.
I know that's totally fine. I'm glad you did because I think you hit on a lot of the points that I wanted to make as well. And I just want to point out on Pinnacle right now, Warriors to win the Western Conference paying 8.79 to 1.
But again, do the math, right?
Yeah,
2.6 times 3.0, 8.79 is better.
Yeah, you get a bit of an advantage there for sure, and it's rare that we see that kind of thing. And again, this is a team, they've been there with the main core of Coach Kerr, your favorite player, Pace of all time, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry. But then also Jimmy's been there, and he's done it with a different team. So you've got these guys that exactly as you said know what it takes to get there and to win. And, they just came through a tough fought series. They showed that resilience, that bit of grit that you're going to need to carry you through more of those series. And I just think that they've got what it takes in the West, full stop. We saw Denver play the Clippers and they kind of did the same in a very close series, a great fun series to watch. And could they do it again? Yeah, they could. But I think if I had to pick one in the West, it's probably the Warriors. Now, all of this to say that Oklahoma City is a huge favorite to win the West, paying 1.44 right now. So, the books love them to win it all. And I love Shea, being a Canadian guy from Toronto area, gotta represent and support him. And that would be fun to see that series. Although seeing, Shea and the Thunder against the Wolves and Anthony Edwards would be a lot of fun too. So I think you're right. In the West, we kind of win no matter what happens. Let's talk about the East for a moment before we move on to the NHL, though. In the Knicks Celtics is, I think, I'm hoping is going to be an incredible series to watch. I don't think that the Celtics are going to roll over the Knicks. And it's funny because on the East side, too, we have the Celtics as huge favorites, currently paying 1.62 to win the East. So by far, heavy favorites, which we're going to contrast with the NHL playoffs coming up in a little bit, which is a very sort of different scenario where you don't really have this kind of heavy favorite. But John called the Pacers to win the East, I think 30-1 on a few shows back there. And seeing how they came out against the Cavs was really, really impressive. So I don't know. I mean, I like that wager. I kind of want to see that one come through. If the Pacers made it to the finals, do I think they could win against any of those Western Conference teams? I don't know. I think that would be really a tall task. Maybe if the Wolves somehow got there and it was Wolves Pacers, they might have a chance, but I don't. Right now, looking at it, it seems like the West is going to be the stronger side unless the Celtics get to the final. In which case, the Celtics will probably be the strongest team. That's kind of where I'm at thinking about it. Any thoughts on the East?
I think it'll be super exciting. I think the Celtics will handle the Knicks.
Yeah.
Obviously, okay. I don't know what's going to happen. I really do think the Celtics will handle the Knicks.
Yeah. I see a scenario where the Knicks get to the final and the Pacers get to the final, and then Pacers beat the Knicks, and then it depending on who they meet in the West, that Western team kind of handles the Pacers. But I think the most likely scenario, and as the books are telling us, is that the Celtics are going to win the Eastern Conference, and I think that's probably right.
Yeah, so again, like just back to this whole discussion of like being there and knowing that they have what it takes. The Knicks, Pacers, and Cavs don't check those boxes for me.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah,
and I'm talking about winning the whole
thing. Yeah,
right. Could they? Of course they could, but I don't know.
Yeah,
and the Cavs. I mean, apparently their round one victory against the Heat, the way they did it, put them in a similar category to the first Warriors team that won. And a lot of the statistics were comparable. It's like some of the greatest stats of all time, and there's a good chance they win it all now. I don't think they were tested. I feel like they weren't real matches. They just played their first real match, and they didn't lose. They got their asses kicked. So I'm not saying they won't win the series. I'm not saying they won't win the championship. I think there's teams out there that I think have a little bit more understanding of what it truly takes to get it done. Separately of that, just quickly back to the West, Steph Curry got interviewed. He said, this series was the single most intense defensive series he has played in his entire career.
Wow.
So you got to give the Rockets credit. He's basically saying that Rockets defense is the best he's ever played against.
Well, yeah, that's going to be a good test, because I think when you get to that Celtics defense, if they get there, that will be the new one. That Celtics defense is incredible. They play lockdown D, and I think that is what's going to carry them to the final.
Totally. And they have another level. They have that. They have that next level. They know what it takes to get it done. The Magic looked great. Honestly, they looked great. And the Celtics did what they had to do to adapt to each game and to shut them down and to get the wins that they needed to advance. Obviously,
yeah. Seeing those Celtics play D is really something. They can just they can turn it up to, like you said, that next level and just completely lock it down. So that's always impressive. All right. let's turn our attention over to the NHL and pace. We are coming off of a pretty awesome win on Sunday night. Watching those Jets come back and win us a team total. That was honestly fucking awesome to watch. Like, what was it, 2 seconds left when they scored that goal? I think it's the latest tying goal ever in a Game 7 series or something like that. I read this morning. It was phenomenal.
There was a film production crew in my unit.
Yeah, that's yesterday. Right. You had somebody there doing a documentary.
I said it could take an entire season to get a moment like that. And the fact that you guys were here for it was so cool. Not only that, the girl, she's betting $5 bets. Her name's Jess. 365 put up 18-1 on the Jets money line. I'm like, you have to take it. No choice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow. Yeah. Look at that. You called her an 18-1 bet there. That's phenomenal.
Well, the number was insane.
Yeah.
And just for anyone listening, that was not when they were down 2-0. It was when, not 2-0, down 2. It was once they were down 1 goal.
So they were, wow. So after they went down 1 goal, it was 18-1 still on 365.
Yeah.
She's cooked. She's done.
Oh, yeah.
she got the email this morning.
She's done.
Yeah. That's it. $5 win on an 18-1 on
female account too, Shane. So it's automatically assumed that she's just someone's girlment or spouse.
Oh, for sure. Know? And was she connected to your Wi-Fi or anything like
that? No.
Because that would have just been the nail in the coffin there. But that's pretty cool that moment happened while she was there filming. That's super cool. And then guess what? They're making some kind of documentary on sports betting.
Yeah, they're doing specifically like a thing on some female bettors across North America. So they've I guess they've traveled and met some crazy female horse bettor that bets horses, and they just got back from where you are, Shane. What's your racetrack called?
Oh, Woodbine.
They just got back from opening day at Woodbine, and the professional bettor who worked with them advised. So this won't be aired because it wasn't filmed. I don't know who the girl is, but I'll learn who she is. She advised the production crew to take Sovereignty to win the Kentucky Derby at 5-1, and they all hit.
Wow.
They did bet it. They took her advice and they bet it. So I guess Sovereignty was the 2-1 favorite, and Journalism was the favorite, and so whomever, and she didn't say take this horse and this horse and this horse. She said that's the horse you got to bet on for this Kentucky Derby, and it did come through. So another positive story with them following crews around. So I guess they followed this female horse bettor who's a pro, and then maybe a few other women in the industry. And then basically what happened was they are doing a little bit of a piece on someone who's female that hasn't bet.
Oh.
So they figured that I would be a decent fit to teach her some stuff.
Ah, that's how they got.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it probably won't air until the fall, and it'll probably be on at like 6 a.m. It's like not a Netflix thing. It's like cable TV, CBC.
Okay. Hey.
So it'll be like
you can watch it online.
It'll be on at like 6 a.m. or something, on regular broadcasting. But and who knows what they'll end up putting in, if anything, of some of the stuff. But
right.
She watched our full masterclass. She isn't a numbers person, so she was pretty lost. But yeah, she got her books funded. She'd actually hit a bet in Tony Bet previously to meeting me, and she can't get her money out.
No, one bet out of Tony Bet and can't get her money out.
But it's like the rollover. Like, just think about a total outsider, right? Coming into the industry.
I was just gonna say she didn't know about the rollover. She probably deposited more than she planned to bet.
She did the rollover, so she got that done. And then they're like, "Oh, we need your ID," and "Oh, now we need your bank statement," and "Oh, now we need your selfie." And when you actually think about, okay, I'm a recreational player.
Yeah,
I'm playing on a sports book that is regulated in Ontario. Right. In order to get my funds, this is what I have to do. And versus, let's just say, you're in Vegas, you walk up to the counter, you say, I want to bet this, and then you bring your bet slip back and they give you cash. There's no identity sharing. And it's like, I understand why some of those policies are in place, but separately of them, you really feel it when you're working with someone who is ultimate level beginner, where you're like, yeah, like this is wrong. It's just not right. Whatever you need, tell me up front. Once it's accomplished, it's done. Not this slow rolling process of trying to put me on tilt, to get me angry, to get me aggravated, to ultimately try to get me to lose my money. Like, it's bullshit.
You know, and just thinking about it too, right? Like that rigmarole that you go through, right? Of, you know, sending all the documents, the bank statement and all of that bullshit. And it's like, you just mentioned, you know, she bet $5 on, you know, the 18-1 Jets win. So I'm going to guess that the bankroll in Tony Bet might've been at most a few $100s if she had won a few bets, you know, like if she had gone on a good little run, you know, and she's probably sitting there asking herself, is it worth compromising all my personal information for a few $100s?
Yeah, but I don't even think it was. And I think that the few $100, this is the thing. It means something to her. She's withdrawing it for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. So like, you know, she hit the bet and she's like $90. Like, this is insane.
Right. She wants to take it, go buy herself a nice dinner or something like that.
100%. 100%. Right. So like, and I'm not talking about like some homeless person, you know, I'm talking about someone who has a job. It's like an extra $90 is like, that's nice. Yeah. You know, so
and she doesn't want to have to, you know, give an arm and a leg to get it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It is quite a, you know, when you, as sort of an insider, it's easy to sort of, you know, forget how those feelings were when you first had to go through the process, you know, or as sort of somebody new to it and winning. But yeah, I guess it's interesting when you see it from that perspective. And you know, it's not you know, we're not talking thousands of dollars. We're talking, you know, maybe a few hundred, if that. So yeah. Anyway, why don't we bring it back here to the NHL playoffs pace, where hopefully we'll make a few more $1,000 at least over the next little while. Because we, you know, round two and the season is going to come to a close. And before we know it, you know, it's going to be one game every few days, you know, and then we're going to be heading into the actual conference finals and then the finals. And, you know, the volume really comes down. So this is sort of I like this time, round one, round two, where we still do have games on a daily basis and we can kind of, you know, be regular and active without, you know, breaks in between. I like it like that a lot myself. But these the NHL playoffs have a very different landscape than the NBA. When we look at who's favored, where, why. So right now, I just want to sort of point this out. You know, we talked about OKC being like 1.4 and Boston being like 1.6 to win the East. When I go and look at the Western Conference and Eastern Conference, you know, Florida is the favored. They're plus money, paying plus 150, 2.58 on Pinnacle right now. On the West, Dallas at 3-1 is the favorite. To win. Yeah, that's right. Pinnacle's got Dallas as the favorite at 3.05 to 1 to win the West. The Oilers are the second favorite at 3.44.
Wow.
And so why don't we start there? Because I thought seeing Dallas as the favorite to win the West, I was like, wait a minute, huh? Didn't they just like come that close to being eliminated by the Avs the other night? Yeah, they had a huge rally in the third period to win the game, but they were on the brink of elimination. And now I see here that they're actually the favorite to win the West. So give me your breakdown of the NHL West right now.
Well, the thing is, we talked about this earlier, like, oh, the team that plays better wins the series. I actually don't think that was true.
Okay.
I think that the Avalanche outplayed them in Game 7. I think they had extremely bad puck luck, a couple goals from behind the net. And all of a sudden their season fell apart. I think that when they were up 2-0, they were outplaying the Stars. They had better scoring opportunities, and the puck just didn't go in. So credit the goaltender. And then all of a sudden for Dallas, you know, you find a puck bouncing off of someone's skate from behind the net, and it slides into the net, and that's hockey. So, yeah, like I think McKinnon was pretty crushed. Obviously, Rantanen stuck a knife in his heart there with the hat trick to eliminate him. I think he's pretty crushed that he's off his team. I think he was questioning everything, and I don't think he should. I think that the Avalanche were the better team, and the fact that Dallas is favored right now, does that mean that Colorado would have been favored? Like, I don't know. Like, I think that's it sounds like they're not really favored. Like everyone's around the same, but you know, Yeah, I think Dallas had a gritty series. I really don't want to see them advance. I didn't want to see them advance. I don't want to see them advance again. Then as far as just you look at let's just look at the landscape of hockey a little bit over the last 5 years in playoffs. We saw the Golden Knights in their opening season make it all the way to the NHL final and fall.
Yeah.
Guess what? You get that chip on your shoulder.
You
know what it takes to get there. You come back stronger. You come back harder. You get ready to get out there, get it done. Well, I'm describing the Dallas Stars right now. In the last 5 years, they've been there. They didn't get it done. The team's largely different right now, but they have some of those same veteran players that they're going to have that edge, that intensity. Well, guess what? I'm also describing the Edmonton Oilers, who went to the final and lost to Florida. And of course, then we have the Golden Knights, who beat Florida the year before. Well, guess what? That put that chip on Florida's shoulder to come back the next season and win the Stanley Cup, right? So looking at these teams, who are the outlying teams here? You got Ovi and the Caps that have done it, but I feel like everyone knows they can't this year. Of course, yes, they can, blah, 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 blah. I feel like everyone knows that this isn't their year. But sure enough, they're there, right? You got the Panthers, who are going for the repeat. You got the Canes. They maybe are an outlier here, and the Jets maybe are an outlier here, where they really haven't had those massive runs super recently to go all the way there. And then I guess, Shane, you got to talk about the Leafs.
We got to talk about them. Of course,
up 3-0. Felt like they almost lost a series again. Things got a little intense, a little sweaty. But this is the thing about this series, right? Toronto's playoff history has largely been them coming into a series as a big favorite with a big lead and shitting the fucking bed. Well, that script is not the case against Florida.
No, not at all.
And they're in uncharted territories. Tavares and Matthews and, Nylander, they're underdogs. They're never fucking underdogs. So maybe they'll embrace the role and get to an East final here. It's going to be a great fucking series. Florida is a fucking good hockey team. And honestly, if I look at every single team that's on the board there's only one that I think doesn't belong in the same class, and it's the Capitals. You might think I'm crazy for saying that. They had a great regular season. I just don't see their ability to beat these other teams in a best-of-7 series. So, yeah, I think it's going to be electric. I wouldn't even dare try to pick a winner. I have the Jets from, again, that same podcast with John where we bet on the Nuggets and the Jets. So, I mean, on both of those bets now, I think we're ahead.
Okay, so I'll just start with the East here and go through the odds quickly. I think I mentioned Florida 2.5, 2.58 on Pinnacle. The Canes at 3.2, and then yes, you got the Leafs paying 5-1. I mean, I'm looking at that and I'm like, oh, is this a homer bet if I were to bet this? I don't know. I mean, they've got to embrace that underdog mentality, especially with all of the years of failure. Postseason failure, to come into a series as an underdog. I would love to see them just embrace that and pull off the upset. But at 5-1, I'm thinking like, hey, it might be worth it. And the Caps are at 5.48. So we're talking about an East here where it's like there isn't anybody that's hugely favored, and it's the same thing on the West. Stars 3.0, Oilers 3.44, Knights 3.8. And then you have the Jets at 5-1 at 5.
Wow.
5.0. So, you've got.
So let's just pause there for a second.
Yeah.
Why are the Jets the biggest underdog as the President's Cup winners?
It's a great question, and we just saw them, play a great series. I mean, they again, they showed that grit and resilience that you look for in teams. They got tested, they overcame it, come from behind victory, score with 2 seconds left, force the OT, go to a second OT and win it there. You know what I mean? Like that's just it just shows a lot of heart for that team. And coming in against a team like Dallas that was on the brink, also, I guess, pulling off a big come from behind win to get there in a 7-game series. I don't know though. I mean, I'm looking at it going like, is Winnipeg really that much worse than Dallas? And Dallas is, so heavily, is the favorite. I don't want to say so heavily because they're still at 3.0. But yeah, are the Jets really that much worse than the Stars?
Yeah, so I guess at this point, if you're listening, you start picking apart the holes in anyone's game. Like if we're saying why not the Jets, you start looking at some of the things that they lack in, and I think what we saw in St. Louis specifically was a team that couldn't rise defensively to the occasion that's required to win a Stanley Cup, and that has been the Achilles heel for the Oilers for a decade.
Mm-hmm.
They've got everything you could possibly ask for in a team from an offensive standpoint, but they can dominate a hockey game. The shots can be 30-10, and then it's one bad counter where their opponent gets a better chance on their one chance than the Oilers had in the entire game controlling the puck. So shitty goaltending, shitty defense. Now, you wouldn't think I'm describing the Jets right now. You just wouldn't, because they have Connor Hellebuck. But he was so bad in St. Louis, and some people might be like, oh, well, that was the fault of the D. It wasn't his. Sure, but it's all goes in tandem, and they need to get back to who they were in the regular season with good, strong goaltending and great defensive play. Now, once it was 3-1 and then became 3-3 last night, the Jets dominated the game. They were the better team, but the Blues had some good fucking chances. We're talking about how many minutes of play was it? Like 33 minutes of play in overtime.
Yeah.
Hellebuck rose to the occasion. He got the job done, and that's what they're going to need from him if they're going to have a chance. And then the Knights, I don't even think we need to talk about them. They're a complete hockey team. They can beat anyone, but you got to face Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So, it's going to be super exciting. Wide open is that's the message here. It's wide open, and from a betting standpoint, guys, a lot of these futures are loaded with vig. We've talked about them a lot on the show. This is not our bread and butter. We're having fun with this stuff. We're shooting the shit. There's going to be some great live opportunities in all of these series that we're very much looking forward to.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to. I just want to point out, you mentioned the Oilers. Their ability to score is insane, and they give up a ton of goals. So I'm already leaning the over in that for game one. I was watching the Oilers. Actually, I was in Alberta. That's why I wasn't here last week on the show. I actually watched that Oilers game in a bar in Banff, and it was just like goal. And it was, the mood kept shifting from, one side to the other, where everybody was just cheering for the Oilers, and it was like they would score and then they'd immediately get scored on. So just, a team that likes to score, but also likes to give up a lot of goals. And as you mentioned, the Knights are a complete team. So I think we could see a lot of goals there.
Well, I'm going back to Kelowna here, and I was in Kelowna last year for the Canucks Oilers series. And this is where I developed such an unrelenting dislike for the fans of Edmonton. Now, okay. I don't mean disrespect to you guys. You cheer for your team. You cheer for how you want to. What I found, and this might be a specific type of fan that happened to be traveling at that time, so I don't want to pigeonhole the entire fan base, but they seemed uneducated on the game of hockey. They seemed to not understand certain things, and the bias poured out in a way that I was like, well, if this was like, I can talk shit about the Canucks till the sun goes down 24/7, right? And it's like, you kind of have to look at things as objectively as possible, which is hard to do, but because these situations are not black and white. But the bias was it hurt my brain, like it made it bleed. But I feel like I'm going to have a much higher acceptance that the Canucks are not in the playoffs, and I actually kind of do want to see Connor McDavid get the job done. Like, that would put a smile on my face to have someone at his caliber of the game complete, what every kid dreams of, and hoist the Stanley Cup. So I'm going to be amidst a ton of Oilers fans in the next couple months here as they make their run. And I don't know, maybe I'll just buy a jersey and if you can't beat them, join them. Right.
Yeah. So, and I mean, hey, that's just one more jersey for your massive collection. Yeah, so that's the big deal, right? Just look at a better jersey, and then off you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that should. I mean, I'd love to see them go back to the finals after. We talk about teams with chips on their shoulder. I mean, they've got to have the biggest chip on their shoulder.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Okay. Let's talk about maybe some players now with chips on their shoulder and more hockey layered on top of this hockey with the World Championships. When does the puck drop on that? I think it's the 9th. I think it's Friday this week. Puck drops on more hockey, international hockey. And you mentioned a guy who will now be playing for Team Canada, Nathan McKinnon, who was hoping maybe that he wasn't going to be playing for Team Canada, but here we are. He's going to be joining Team Canada along with Sidney Crosby. Our guy Matt Gurdon, for those who don't know, aren't in the IPL community, one of the pros within IPL, making some calls today on Team Canada. We like to tease Matt for making a lot of like homer calls. He's got big time fanship and all that, but I think there might be some good value on Team Canada, Pace.
So I'm sorry. Because of the Four Nations, we're pretending to care about this tournament for the first time in 100 years.
You know what? Maybe the Four Nations does have people caring about international hockey a little bit more. I don't know. I mean,
maybe
it was a lot of fun, and we're going to be seeing some of these big time NHL players playing because they're not in the playoffs.
I question whether this is like, hey, let's shoot the shit with some guys that play for our country and keep our bodies fit and play hockey as we ease into summer because we didn't make the playoffs for the guys that accept. Like, I really don't know what the motivations are. Team Canada historically hasn't done well in this tournament. I don't know. We care. Okay, we care.
I don't know. Do we? I don't know. I mean, you're more of a hockey guy than I am. Like, you don't care, then maybe we don't. I don't know.
Shane, you heard me talk about the Four Nations before it happened. I said this is going to be as big as any Game 7 of any hockey,
and it was bigger. Lived up to the hype, 100%.
And it was bigger. And that isn't the game being good. That was more money taken on any hockey game in like the last decade.
Oh, that Canada-US
right?
Game, yeah.
It was everything that came through before the game even started. People cared, and they cared in a massive, massive way. This is not that, and it won't be, and it never will be, right? If people knowing that Austin Matthews is in the playoffs and not representing USA, that Matthew Tkachuk is on the Panthers and he's not representing USA, Jack Eichel, the list goes on and on. They don't sit there and go, oh, we lost to Canada, or vice versa. They go, this wasn't our best.
Would you watch though for sort of any of the same live opportunities that we maybe get in NHL?
Yeah, so just like, this is a really good piece of advice, guys. When you go to Pinnacle, and Pinnacle is the best resource for this, so obviously we bring them up a lot on the show, but they just simply are the best resource for this. The day of the game, click the max bet on one of the two teams that the puck is about to drop. So a couple hours before puck drop, click the max bet button on Pinnacle, see what the number is, then do the same thing for the NHL playoffs. That's a really good indicator on whether or not this is something that you can bet on in a capacity that won't overly expose you to limit risks. So if we're talking about tens of thousands of max bet pregame, a lot of people are betting on it. They have a great handle, and it's going to be a great event to wager on for you pregame and live. And obviously Pinnacle doesn't limit winning players, but that's a good sort of angle to take into your other sports books. Now, if the limits are quite small, that's a really good sign that this just isn't the best event to be hunting down soft lines on another book. Can you make money? 100%. But can you make money and keep your account? Well, the answer to that is always no. But will you be able to fly under the radar a little bit longer? Having bet that, and just look at that as something, and I'll do the same. So that's how I'd answer your question. If we're going to be looking at this as something that we're actually going to be live betting as a group, because I know people will be doing it regardless, we definitely want to make sure that they can take some action.
Right. Yeah. Great point there, because exactly if Pinnacle, like, if the sharp books are going to take less money, well, that tells you that the market isn't that efficient, which means if you go and bet it on a soft book, are you likely to win? Maybe, probably. I mean, you're probably looking at something that's soft and you probably have an edge there, but will you get cooked faster, most likely. Right? So it's sort of like, you got to kind of play the sides there and determine whether or not it's worth betting on that book. And maybe it means you don't play it on the soft book and you just play it on a sharp book for a low an amount that might be lower than what you might typically bet.
Totally. And that's really good advice as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that pace, we're talking about Pinnacle. We got to bring up the Pinnacle contest. It turns out Nick never did claim his prize, did he?
No,
Nick. Womp womp womp, buddy.
We're meeting him in Vancouver too. He's never going to live it down.
Oh, no. I feel bad for you, Nick, because actually, when Vancouver and the retreat happens, we're going to only be like a week away from announcing the second round of what should be the second winner, but it'll actually be the first winner who's going to win 2,000 USD and have that put into their Pinnacle account. That's where we're at, right, Pace?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it breaks my heart a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's a bit sad there. But you know what? For whoever is going to win that next one, they got double the prize. I mean, 2,000 USD into your Pinnacle account. Who doesn't want that? So if you do want it, which I think most of you out there probably do, all you got to do is make a bet on Pinnacle during this quarter. So that would be from April 1st to the end of June. Make a bet, $10 minimum on Pinnacle, and send your bet slip over to Mark Rodgman. And you can do that through our Discord server, right, Pace? And everyone can access it, whether you're a member or not.
Let me ask you a question, Shane.
Yeah.
If you win, are you entering?
I didn't enter. I don't feel like I have, I just sort of self-exclusion here. Like, I'm
2,000 USD, Shane. We're getting up there.
Well, we're getting up there, but Pace, I mean, come on. I'm here hosting the show and everything like that. I don't feel like I should be, I'm helping you run the contest here. I don't think I should be able to enter it. Just like you can't enter it, right, Pace? You're not putting
I entered the last one. I just would
No,
never
you didn't. Come on.
Of course, I got to show my support and send my bet slip in.
And if you won the 1,000 USD, you'd be like, sorry, guys, I won.
No, there's never. No, absolutely not. If when I randomly clicked that thing, it landed on me, I just would have clicked it again. I wouldn't have even said anything. But I actually was curious if you were going to enter, and if so, how rigged it would look and how hard KB would be after you. So
yeah, well, there we go. KB, that's another reason for me not to enter.
In the battle of hosts, this host will not enter out of pride. So I guess now we have to find out if he too would handle the situation the same way you would.
Oh, well, KB, let us know. I guaranteed KB is putting an entry in. He might even try to get 2 or 3 entries in.
Yeah. He may rig it a little bit, right? Yeah,
exactly. All right, guys. Well, definitely get those entries in though, because that prize is now 2,000 USD. Sorry, Nick.
A lot of money.
Yeah, so it's a good chunk of money, and we'll be doing it for the third and fourth quarters of the year too. And by that point, Pace, you might see a bet slip in there that's got like either preseason NFL in that third quarter of the year. You might get some CFL bets coming at you, because I know Pinnacle does offer some CFL every once in a while. It's a little funny, I think, when you go to find the markets on Pinnacle, but they do offer CFL. I'm pretty sure.
Big time. It's one of the best books for CFL.
Yeah, it's great. So who knows? You might see some bets come through for some of those sports. Football on the menu in the third quarter of the year. Look at that. Well, before you know it, we'll be back in September. Yeah. All right, Pace. A lot of fun chatting with you today about playoffs. I'm sure we'll be talking more playoffs in the weeks to come. But until then, keep beating those books. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join In Play Live, use promo code Behind the Lines.